Hello, you've obviously clicked on this video because you're interested in bringing your drone to Europe. Today we're going to talk about getting your A1, A3 drone license for the EU, and that will apply to anywhere in Europe. And then we're going to talk about registering your drone. This is going to be more specific to Italy because that's where I just went a few months ago, and getting insurance because you need insurance in Italy to fly. It was a very complex process for me, so hopefully I'm going to shave some time off for you. Let's go.
I'm a beautiful disaster, a reckoning. You wonder how I got this way. You wonder how I got this way. You think I'm someone to be saved, someone to clean up and tame. Oh, some things never change.
So let's talk about the differences with the EU A1, A3 drone license. First, the Part 107. The EU A1, A3 is low-risk recreational and commercial ops, where the Part 107 is for commercial operations or anybody flying for work. EU, it's for anybody flying a drone over 250 grams. The EU test is it's an online course plus an online exam, and it's really easy. I'm going to show you what site that I went to take this test. And the Part 107, you have to actually go and do an FAA testing center. It's not open book. It's a much more difficult test, in my opinion, versus the European test at this point. The FAA testing center that I went to near Midway Airport, the equipment in that place looked like it was about 50 years old. I think the guy was still using a fax machine, and he looked like he'd been working there since it opened. It was a pretty bad situation over there. Minimum age for both is 16. Medical required for both is no. Your EU drone license will stay valid for 5 years, which is really nice. So if you're traveling to Europe quite a bit, once a year, a couple times a year, it's really worth it to have it, where the US is 2 years before you have to take a recurrent test. The recurrent test is online. They both have a remote ID requirement. Airspace approval, we're not going to dive too much into that today. I may make a later video. US is FAA authorization, which we use in the app. It's fairly simple, where in Europe it's local authority, and that can be a real problem. So the site that I went to is called Alpha Tango. It's actually the French Civil Air Authority. There is not a website in Italy to take your drone test, so I went here for my EU test to get the A1 through A3. You can see you're going to want to go here. You're going to want to create an account. This test is free, so you're going to want to go to my courses once you're in there. As you can see, I've completed my course on the A1, A3. It's prompted me to take the test for the A2. The difference with the A2 test is you can get closer to people. For my trip to Italy, this wasn't extremely important. I was not planning on trying to get close to people, but I could tell you, if you're in some of these major cities that have some great drone shots, most of them are restricted. There's a ton of people around, so you're probably going to want to get outside of that. But you're going to take your test here, and once you take your test, you're going to get your drone license. You'll have your drone license, you'll have your operator ID, and that will all be taken care of, and that is free. So you do the open category training, and then you go take the test. I think the test was like 50 to 70 questions. I took it a few months ago, but it's not difficult. It's open book. Anything you get stumped on, you can easily research on the internet. So you should have no problem. Once you get your A1, A3 license, and let's say you're going to Italy, there's a few more things that you have to do. There's a website called D-Flight. And D-Flight is where you upload your operator ID, because you need an operator ID to fly in any drone in most of these countries. And you would go register on D-Flight. So let's say you were not getting your A1, A3 license, you would still go register on D-Flight because you need to register your drones. So this is where you go to register your drones. And there is some cost to this. I think it cost me about €7 per drone to register. So a few complications possibly with registering your drone. You're supposed to have an address in Italy. This site is really not set up for foreigners or tourists. Fortunately for me, I have family in Italy, so I was able to use their address. But I've seen people, and I'm going to link a Reddit thread. I've seen some of the pilots in there use their hotel address or use the address for the Airbnb that they were staying in, and it worked perfectly. So if you need an address, you just may want to figure out where you're staying and put that address down for your registration and for your insurance later. So once you have your drones registered, and like I said, it's going to cost about, you purchase credits through D-Flight, and it's going to cost about $6 to $7 per drone that you're going to register. You're going to need to get insurance. You're required to have insurance in Italy. And again, back to that Reddit thread, there's a ton of insurance options in there, but it's a little difficult for somebody from the US. In fact, some of those insurance companies, when you go to select your home address or where you're from, the US is not in there. I ended up going with a insurance provider called DroneZine. So that's Drone, Z-I-N-E. And it cost me about $30 to get the right policy for the drones I was flying in Europe. Again, I was bringing a Mavic 3 Pro and an Avata 2. The other thing with the registration is once you're done registering it, it's going to provide you a couple QR codes for the registration of each drone. You need to cut those out and tape that QR code to each drone. After you've done all of this, you have your insurance set up, you need the insurance information to actually register your drone. You are good to go. You're good to fly in Italy, and you've done everything that you need to do. The other thing that you're going to use D-Flight for is for airspace. So you're going to want to make sure that you're not restricted airspace. Fines in Italy for flying in restricted airspace can run up to $100,000. The problem with D-Flight is not, in the States, we have apps. You have GPS on them, and it'll tell you, hey, you're here, you're in restricted airspace where you're standing right now. I could not find an app, and maybe it's not available to Americans for D-Flight. So I had to actually go on the website to check airspace, which is a little frustrating. What I would suggest to you is figure out where you're going, look where the restricted airspace is. And I'm going to tell you, I was in Milan, most of it's restricted. I was in Lake Como, most of it's restricted. Portofino, Genoa, the Amalfi Coast. What I would suggest you do is figure out where you're going, figure out where the unrestricted airspace is, and mark that on Google Maps on your phone or some other place so you know exactly where to go once you're in Italy, so you're not trying to figure that out. The other thing you can do is you can apply for permits, you could apply for authorization, but Italy doesn't move too fast. And I've read stories going back to this Reddit thread where people have obtained a permit, they went to fly, and the police shut them down anyways. All right, everyone, that's all I have for today. If this video has been helpful and educational for you, please like and subscribe so I can make more of them. Have a great day.
I'm a beautiful disaster, a reckoning. You wonder how I got this way. You think I'm someone to be saved, someone to clean up and tame. Oh, some things never change, never change. You think I would look pretty on your arm once you cover up my bruises and battle scars, but it always ends the same.